right. Welcome, Laksh Chopra, everyone.
Hey everybody.
Yeah. So, what habits or mindset shifts have helped you stay disciplined, especially when motivation fades?
Sure. So I think where a lot of people go wrong is they wait for motivation to happen in order for an action to occur. Like, for example, let's say if you want to go to the gym at 5 a.m., right? And if you're someone who has never gone to the gym or you've never gone to the gym that early, you're not just going to wake up at 4:59 and at 5 o'clock when the clock strikes 5 o'clock. You're not just going to have a light bulb go off in your head that, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to get ready, I'm going to go to the gym. That does not happen. Instead, you've got to break down that one big goal into smaller actions, which will then cause motivation through a snowball effect. For example, don't think of it as going to the gym at 5 a.m. Think of it as getting out of your bed at 5 a.m., getting into your workout clothes at 5:01 a.m., getting brushed, getting like changed everything at like 5:03 a.m., right? When you break it down into those smaller tasks, each task will give you the kind of proof that you're capable of accomplishing something, which will then fuel the motivation that, okay, if I did this one thing, that means I can do the second step. If you do the second step, that means you're capable of doing the third step. And when you break it down like that, you're able to really tackle your goals and really tackle your kind of plan of attack in a way where motivation is arbitrary. It's only the action which will then further cause motivation, right? Same thing when you apply it to like reading a book. I personally haven't read a lot of books. I would really like to get in the habit, but I'm not going to just say, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to have a 250-page book in front of me and just set a timer for 4 hours and try to get through this whole thing. It does not work like that. Instead, I'm going to say, step one, I'm going to just sit down and I'm going to open the book. That's all I'm going to do. Step two, I'm just going to flip to the first chapter and read the first sentence. That's it. The thing is, when you break it down into such a small step, you can't help but carry it on further. You're not just going to read one sentence of a book. You're going to read maybe the second sentence and the third sentence, and that turns into paragraphs, and then it turns into pages and chapters.
Yeah.
When you break it down into the smaller steps, your motivation gets added on through every individual small action you take.
Yeah. It's like those little steps, say, instead of making it out to be this grand scale. And it's scary, man. You're looking at that mountain and it's just like, how am I supposed to climb this? But if you take one step and then another and then another, and then you're enjoying each step and you're marking that as progress, as victory, right? That you've come farther than you were 30 seconds ago.
Absolutely.
Next thing you know, you're halfway through and might as well keep going. And then you keep going. And then a lot of people, I'm sure you're a big listener of Chris Williamson.
Yeah.
He says that people underestimate what they can do in a year and they overestimate what they can do in a day, right?
Yeah.
It's those like little chunks that you find in a day that's ultimately what's going to add up and tackle the giants, the beast, the dragon, slay that dragon.
Yeah. So another mindset shift would be that it's a quote by Alex Hormozy, is that there's always someone who's had it worse but done it better, right? The thing that you are trying to do is possible. There's 8 billion people on planet Earth. Someone must have tried it, but there must be someone who has performed better than you in worse circumstances, right? If that person can do it, why can't you? You should not have an excuse as to why you can't do it, because there's always going to be someone who's had it worse and done it better.
Yeah. You might lower in the mic, lowering it so you can see your face. Awesome. Yeah, perfect. But yeah, dude, there's just so many people out there with just living in third world countries, right? And they somehow make it to America or Canada and make it work, or they achieve greatness in their own field within that country with the little guidance or little resources that they do have. It's amazing. Yeah, you just got to do the thing, right? You just got to do the thing that you want, that aligns with your values, with your ambition, that makes you fulfilled.
Yeah. And speaking of doing the thing, is when you don't have motivation, I like to kind of picture this poem. It basically goes like, preparing to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Scheduling time to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Making a to-do list for the thing isn't doing the thing. Telling people you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Messaging friends who may or may not be doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Writing a banger tweet about how you're going to do the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on yourself for not doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on other people who have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Hating on the obstacles in the way of doing the thing isn't doing the thing. Fantasizing about all of the adoration you're going to receive once you have done the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how other people did the thing isn't doing the thing. Reading about how to do the thing isn't doing the thing. And reading this essay, or in this case, listening to me read this essay, isn't doing the thing. The only thing that's doing the thing is doing the thing. When you don't have motivation, no worries. All you got to do is just take the next logical step and do the thing, right? And oftentimes, like during the conversation of motivation, when people have big work that they need to get done, they spend so much time and energy working on the things that don't really move the needle, right? All of those things I just mentioned, right? Like reading about it or how to do it. I'm sure, like when you start your podcast, the best way for you to put out the first episode was to just do the thing, right? You didn't think about, oh, what if this happens, or oh, how am I going to do that, right? You just kind of like dive deep into it, you figure it out, and then it improves along the way, right? And when you spend more of your energy just focusing on things that do the thing instead of all of the other stuff that I've mentioned, your work increases, like not only by the quality, but also the quantity. It leaves no room for lack of motivation to disrupt your work, because motivation does not exist in this world. In this world of doing the thing, all that exists is action.
You're right. It's just you can really lubricate everything and make sure everything's perfect, but unless you gain action, unless you actually do things to move the needle. And I've actually read that essay many times in this podcast, actually, probably like 4 or 5 times now, which I love that essay. Actually, the previous podcast, that one with Brooke McLean, I read that. It's
Awesome.
just, it's awesome. And it resonates with me so well because we spend so much time trying to trying to prepare these things, going around and making sure we're measuring the pencil, we're sharpening it, we're making sure we're wiping the dust off the glasses or like the kind of the blurry areas, but we don't take the time to actually write something, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another thing is like 90% of success can be boiled down to just doing the obvious thing for an extraordinary amount of time without convincing yourself you're smarter than you actually are. What this means is all you got to do is just show up. For example, 90% of podcasts don't make it past the third episode. That means in order to be in the top 10% of podcasters, you just got to have 4 episodes. If you want to be in the top 1% of podcasters, you got to have 22 episodes, because 99% don't make it past 21 episodes. That's all it takes. Greatness is so easy to be achieved in this world because so many people give up and they don't show up. You just have to show up.
Yeah. Hey, episode 130. So I'm making it.
Yeah. And last point on motivation would be to reduce friction. When you want to do something and you want to make it easier for you to do the thing, you got to reduce friction. For example, coming into this podcast room, right? All I had to do was, you made it so easy for me. I just sit down, you press record, and we talk, right? Whereas with even in my situations, when I first started making content, it would be a whole like little ritual that I had to do. Like first I have to set up my camera, find the perfect lighting, etc. Right? Maybe come up with a little script of what I'm gonna say, right? But now what I did was, all I gotta do is gotta press record. Everything's set up for me, right? I made it easier on myself to get content out there, which means I could get more content out there, which means I have more iterations to improve. And when you're able to reduce friction, it becomes easier for you to do the thing, which means you do more of the thing. Opposite is also true, in fact. Like if you're trying to quit something, or you want to quit some habits that you're not proud of, increase friction, make it harder to do the thing. When you want to stop doing something, you can increase the friction.
Yeah. I know with bad habits, right? You just need to make sure you put that controller away, or make sure that you're not surrounded by friends that are continuously smoking, or you're not surrounded by friends that just drink all the time, because of course you're going to be enticed, you're going to be tested. So why not just don't go there? Like, don't put those chips in your pantry, because you're going to get tempted and you're just going to increase the friction. And yeah, same way the opposite goes, where if you want to make something a lot more abundant when it comes to the activity, you have to make sure it's easier. So the podcast, you just sit down, the camera's there. Actually, this is my room. I sleep here. Yeah, dude, I'm doing what it takes.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, dude, because I had all these excuses of, I don't really have a room to do it at. Like, I don't got a studio. Where am I supposed to do it? I sleep in my studio.
That's all
Hormozo
you need.
style. Yeah. How did you come about this realization?
Sure. So I guess a big part of was even just me wanting to create content. So it's a big goal when you say that, okay, you want to start sharing your advice on social media, you want to start putting yourself out there. And it can be really overwhelming because, number one, you don't know what the response from the public is. Instead of framing it like that, or even in terms of you recording or you starting your podcast, right? Instead of it having being like 100 podcast kind of like extravaganza, it's just one podcast at a time, right? And what I did was, okay, what's the first step? Go on Amazon, I buy like a $25 mic. What's the second step? I install CapCut. What's the third step? I open my camera and I just talk like this for 5 minutes. Fourth step, edit, and just break it down to those small steps. And and you should act before the fear stops you from acting. So if it takes me like 10 seconds to, let's say, install CapCut or really just get up my phone and start recording, it's going to take me a bit longer for the fear to stop me from doing that. You need to act, you need to think about whatever the next logical step is before the fear stops you from doing it. Just leave no room for fear to stop you from doing anything.
Don't you think about what people might think though, and your character, and like, are you credible? Because that's when I am releasing these episodes sometimes, and I'm putting myself out there. I get a sense of why would people listen to me, right? Why am I credible? Like, how do you stomach those thoughts, and do you even get those thoughts in the first place?
So when it comes to posting content, there's definitely like a fear of what are people going to think, or as you said, like, am I credible? But I only like to focus on what's in my control. All I can do as a creator is just get out my phone and just push content, right? I can't control someone else's mind, like what they might think of my content or what comments they might leave. And when I focus on only what's in my control, that's when the results happen, right? For example, if I just post 3 episodes or 3 kind of reels and all of that negativity, I let it affect me, well, then my podcast is done. My content creation is done. But when I only focus on just me getting out my content, then that's when you reach the 100 numbers. That's when you reach your numbers in the thousands, right? You just don't let the external influence stop you from your own input. You can only force the input. You can only affect the input. Don't worry on the output. When you maximize the input, the output, the good ones at least, will automatically be maximized.
So, can you share a time when you felt like giving up but pushed through, and what got you through this?
Sure. So recently, I just finished my second semester at U of A. I had this class. It's called Accounting 211. And,
Mhm.
me being a content creator, I had a podcast. I figured as a way for me to study as well, I'm going to recap the whole accounting course. I'm going to make like a 2 hour, 3 hour video, just kind of a mini podcast episode, kind of me tutoring the whole course basically. And at first it seemed nice because, I get to learn the whole course, because if I can teach it, I learn it really well. I get clout, I get like a good connection with the teacher as well if I ever need like a referral or a recommendation letter or anything. So a lot of good upsides to me doing that. However, I completely underestimated the amount of time it'll take. So 3 hour video, it takes me probably 4 hours to record. Plus there's like 15 hours of just planning and coming up with my like instruction material, all that stuff, right? So the biggest thing that I focused on was I just wanted to provide value, right? At the end of the day, I figured if I could post something, then if it helps someone else out, then what more could I want, right? And there's a lot of upside, but because it was so overwhelming, this is what got me through it. So number one, just break it down into smaller steps. So it turned out that it wasn't just a 3 hour video anymore. It was 14, 20-minute videos, right? It was a video on each chapter instead of just a video on the whole course. And when you break it down like that, it becomes less overwhelming. And when you reduce the amount that something is overwhelming of or overwhelming by, the amount that you can produce in terms of quality and quantity output increases. If something is not overwhelming at all, you'll do it in a heartbeat. You'll do it in a snap, right? So when you can take out the overwhelming nature of something by breaking it down into smaller steps, that's a good strategy to do it. Then you were able to tackle your goals head on immediately, fast, and you're able to produce output fast. And another thing is, when I'm working through something, this is definitely something that was a big project and there was definitely a lot of reward for it. And I'm sure if someone else had done it as well, they would see a lot of benefit and reward, right? There was a quote by Hormozy and it goes something like, this is where most people stop and this is why they don't win. So anytime during that 15, 16 hour period where I was planning the course material and recording, there were times where I'm like, why am I doing this? Is the reward even worth it? But I paused and I thought to myself, there must be someone who wanted to do the same thing I wanted to do, right? But they stopped where I'm having these thoughts right now. And because they stopped, that's why they didn't win. And when you kind of phrase it that way, whenever you have these thoughts of not wanting to continue on with your goals, just realize other people have tried to do the same thing as you. This is when they stopped. This is why they didn't win. So if you just push through it, then you will win. You will have the result that you want to have.
Yeah, if it was easy, then everybody else would be doing it. Right?
Absolutely.
If everybody could be rich, famous, attractive, with pure health and great connections, right? Then everybody would choose that. But no, what's the easy thing to do? To watch Netflix, to not study, to not work out, to eat like shit, to, be angry at somebody who wronged you, to go for revenge. And the destruction side of humanity, it's all really easy because you get that gratification. It's instant, right? Gambling, smoking. But it's the times where you're tested, where it's actually worth having, where you have those tough talks, where you go to the gym, where you don't want to wake up and you don't want to do this. It's usually good for you, right? And
Absolutely.
what I've realized recently too is sometimes we don't even know what's good for us, right? Because in the back of my head, sometimes I'm like, there's that lingering thought of, I don't want to do this. And I'm convincing myself that, I should just stop. Like I should just give up. But then fast forward months later and I didn't stop. I just overrode the system. I'm thankful for myself. My future self is thanking my past self for not succumbing to those thoughts. And actually I just got into a sales job. It's door-to-door knocking. Have you ever had somebody walk up to your door and like just whether they're another religion or they're trying to sell you something? Dude, I didn't know it was this hard. Like I just finished my first week. I knocked like 500 doors and I had one sale. I was stumbling on my words. I didn't really know what to do yet. And I was going to give up yesterday. I was going to tell everyone, my boss, that like, okay, this isn't for me. Like, this is just so embarrassing going up there. What am I doing with my life? But I woke up today and I'm like, I've had these thoughts before. And if I quit now, then I'm going to be like the rest of them,
Yeah.
And it's only 3 months. Like I'm off that. Then the new semester starts. And if I gave it my all on that job, then I'll come back and I'll do even better. But if not, I'll find a different route. But as long as I give it my best, and that's continuously trying to override the system of, okay, don't give up, right? And as long as it's not like physically harming you, right? And maybe in some sense it does, but that comes with the sacrifices and the reflection. Now, for you, like, how do you know if this is actually like worth having? Because you could be climbing up a mountain and it could be the wrong one, right? What compels you? And I know you said you want to provide value for others because with your accounting class. Now, how do you know which one to choose? Because there's so many opportunities out there, man. How do you know?
Yeah. So, short answer, you don't. you just have to stick it out long enough to have somewhat of a good answer. There was this kind of graph by James Clear. He wrote the book Atomic Habits, where basically on the y-axis you have results, on the x-axis you have time, and then the graph basically is kind of like for the people who are listening and not watching, I'm basically making like a upside down U shape. And what it's showing is that when you just start out, when your time is very minimal into the thing, then you might get a few results here and there. But the more you stick out, sometimes the results might not come through. And that is the testing point. That's when you just don't know if the thing that you're working on, it's going to be a reward that's worth having. But on the flip side of that testing point, the results go back again. That's when all the people who stuck through the hard time are there. And they're the people who are having the most results that they could ever possibly want. So you don't know if it's something that's worth doing. You only know by sticking out in the long term. Now, of course, there are some ways you can like learn from others. I think that's a big one where if there's someone who's already done the thing that you want to do, but they're not happy with the results that they got, and you're confident that you can't do it in any other way, then I know then I can probably figure out that that's not something that's worth doing. But when it's something completely fresh, completely new that you have no idea about, people quit before they've given it enough of a shot. People just quit. They don't give it enough of a shot, and they turns out it's a reward that's worth having, but they gave up too soon for them to materialize that reward.
Hmm. How do you balance setting ambitious goals with being patient in the process?
So no goal is ambitious if you just give yourself a long runway. For example, I can say that I want a $10 million business in 1 year, right? That's a pretty ambitious goal. Because people will call me crazy. People will say I'm out of my mind for 1 year. But if I say I want a $10 million business in the next 10 years, suddenly it's not so crazy anymore, right? It's not so ambitious. I mean, the ambition of the goal is relatively the same because it's 10 million, but just because you gave yourself a longer runway, now you don't have to come up with like $80,000 every single month. Now you only gotta come up with $1 million every single year for the 10 years, right? In order to get yourself like the $10 million goal. So when you give yourself the longer runway, you're able to again break down your goal into the smaller steps, which allow you to fuel action, which fuels motivation, which then brings up your ability to tackle on that ambitious goal. Also, people get this wrong. They think that when you're working on an ambitious goal, you need to tackle it with a good work-life balance. Work-life balance does not exist, at least in the way where people think it does. For example, let's say if you want to like get a top corporate job as a VP position in a corporation, right? People think a work-life balance is you working like a good 8 hours a day, you spending an hour exercising every single day, you're spending 2 hours with your family every single day, you're spending 50 minutes cooking healthy food for yourself every single day, you're getting 8 hours of sleep every single day. Work life balance is not balanced every single day of your life. Instead, there are going to be periods of time when you just don't have balance. It's going to be perfectly imbalanced in a way. For example, right now, I don't have like a family of my own, like no wife, no kids. I don't have a mortgage. The majority of my time I can commit is just either going to be to school or working, right? So some of those categories, simply just because they don't exist, I'm not going to have balance in them. And my biggest priority, it's going to be imbalanced in favor of studying, in favor of working, right? And right now, I have probably the biggest advantage that other people older than me don't have. It's my time. So when I can use my time, and as long as you're not getting like 2 hours of sleep every single night, but you definitely need to like sometimes choose what you need to sacrifice, right? Or for example, um when I graduate college and I'm in like a corporate job, right? There's just going to be times where I'm going to have to prioritize work, where I'm not going to have the most perfectly balanced life, right? Or when I start my family, there's going to be times that I'm going to have to sacrifice my job. There's going to be times when I'm going to have to favor the time that I need to spend with my family, right? In all those categories, my time is not 100% balanced throughout the whole like 10-year period that I've laid out. It's going to be imbalanced. But overall, when you stretch it out over the grand scheme of your 80-year life, it will seem like a balanced life. And you can think of it as like a normal college semester as well,
Mhm.
right? The first week of school is just syllabus week, nothing happens. So your balance that goes towards school, it's very low. Or your time that goes towards school, it's low. You don't need to balance it as much. When midterm season happens or final season happens, your other priorities will take a hit because your school priority just got a bit higher, right? I wouldn't call that um, imbalance in the long term, because over in the long term it does seem balanced, but in the short term you're just going to have to realize that pure 100% work life balance is fictional. It will not exist, and you're just going to have to suck it up in the times when you do need to face imbalance. Another thing I'll bring up is anything in life that's worth doing is either difficult, boring, or both. When it comes to that ambitious goal, there has been someone who wanted to achieve that same goal, right? I think it's very possible in the 8 billion people that have been alive or that currently are alive today. It's an ambitious goal. And there's people who's tried to done it before, but they've given up because anything that's worth doing, it's either difficult, boring, or both, right? When the previous question was brought up of how do you know if it's a goal that's kind of worth doing or if it's going to be a reward? Well, if it's truly worth doing, it's going to be difficult, boring, or both. And you're going to have to accept that. You're going to have to power through that. There is no shortcut except action.
Yeah, with every single successful person, there was usually a story, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be where they are, right? They
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to, if they weren't given the wealth, they're not able to maintain that wealth right? Because even if you are born into power, nepotism, right, to maintain that wealth still requires tremendous amount of work. And that's, as you
Yeah.
said, difficulty and boredom comes with that, right? When you're balancing the spreadsheets, when you're kind of acclimating your body, when you're doing those breath exercises, trying to stay calm, when you're the group meetings, right? It's not like these adventure days where there's drama there and this everything explodes and then you somehow solve it. No, it's like monotonous, right? And you had mentioned that yes, right now is the perfect time, man. You got no wife, no kids. I same with me, man. I'm on the same boat, right? That's why I can just go ham on a Sunday, right? I just go podcast once a week and make shorts every day, work as much as I can, improve the body, because right now is the best time. And a lot of people ask advice from successful people, right? They go, hey, Bob, you're the CEO of X company, or you're this manager who's super charismatic and you know how to speak, you know how to really do everything well. And they'll give them advice of like, yeah, work life balance, right? You gotta have time for the family. You gotta but that's that point in their lives. They I'm sure I'm for most people that got up to the top echelon of society, there was no balance when they started out. Like all those startups, like Steve Jobs talks about it, LeBron talks about it when it comes to sports, Tiger Woods, right? You talk to every single person that is ultra renowned. Usually there was some sort of imbalance in their life for a little bit. Eventually they realize, hey, I can't keep this up, right? But even then, to be truly great, if that's something you want to succeed, you just have to devote time, energy, attention. You have to be obsessed, right? That's what David
Yeah.
Goggins would say. Uh, but man, what are you trying to accomplish when it comes to your content? Like, you said this is a goal of yours? You want to be like acquire $10 million in 10 years? Is that a goal?
um it can be a goal, mostly for my accounting work, but in terms of content, well, the reason I started is um this is a shallow reason to start, by the way, and it'll come up later, but I wanted fame, I wanted clout, right? I wanted people to know me, potentially money, sponsorships, etc., right?
Love it.
When I started, because of that, I was putting out reels that weren't the highest quality because I didn't have my watchers, my viewers' best interest in mind, right? I was purely chasing the money, purely chasing the fame, clout, etc. But then I realized, you know what? This isn't working. And at that point, I just fall in love with the game of creating content so much where I shifted my goal entirely to just providing value, right? I even have business cards where it's kind of like promotional for my Instagram where it just says providing value, right? And when I focus on providing value exclusively, my numbers shot up in every measurable metric. I was happier making content. I was more fulfilled. And eventually, this will come up as well as to why you should have a social media presence. But a short answer is you will never regret it. You will, every single person who makes content, their story will be unique, but in every single one of them, the common feature is that their personal, business, professional life in some way of category has always benefited, right? And I'm starting to see so many of those benefits. For example, just me being on this podcast, right? Like this is my first ever like invite to a guest episode. Really loving it.
Bro,
So
I respect the hustle, man. I've seen you put out those reels. I've seen you support our boy Campus,
yeah.
right? If you hadn't made the effort to put yourself out there, you and I wouldn't have linked up. You and I wouldn't have been connected in this
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah.
It's like if I didn't start the podcast, then it wouldn't work out too. Like you will come across the people that you are have the like that have like-minded thoughts, goals, and just the same kind of outlook. Which, if you want to succeed, if you social media is for you, of content creation, being creative, putting your authentic self out there, people will recognize it, and people eat that shit up, man. And you just start to meet wonderful, amazing people with just
Absolutely.
amazing thoughts. Um, so when it comes to choosing a good college major, what are some common mistakes students make when choosing their major, and how can they avoid them?
So I really listened to someone called Scott Galloway, and his advice is that following your passion is bad advice. Oftentimes, when people pick their college major, it's based off of their passion. For example, you have someone like there's actually a course that is offered by some universities, mostly in the States, but you can actually take like a major in pottery. That can be your passion, sure. But when you major in something that is your passion, chances of you kind of succeeding in that are very low.
Pottery. What? What do you even do?
Like it's ridiculous, right? Like you would basically just make like vases and like glasses and like pots, whatever. But that is a great hobby to release stress. I cannot see it being marketable in the job market. But following your passion is bad advice. The person who told you to follow your passion is already rich. For example, just in the case of pottery, right? You can walk up to a local pottery owner, right? Or there must be someone who has a $10 million pottery business, right? They can tell you, hey, follow your passion. You should major in pottery like I did, right? But that person is already rich. They're giving you advice based off of their current version of themselves, not the version of themselves 50 years ago, right? Instead of Alex Hormozy and Chris Williamson, they had like this combined podcast episode where they said, don't ask the person who's 50 steps ahead of you for advice, because they've become disillusioned of the reality of what it's like to be at level 1. Instead, ask person at level 2 or level 3 about advice on how to climb up, because they're more likely to give you a better answer, right? And instead of following your passion, you should follow your talent, something that you're naturally good at, and then put in the tens of thousands of hours of work required to become great at it. So, for example, in my case, in high school, in junior high, I was naturally good at math, right? It came pretty easy to me. I didn't have to spend too much effort at it. That was my talent. I can't really do much with that talent, but I can apply it to something like accounting. And right now I'm at level 1 of accounting. But if I put in the tens of thousands of hours of work required to become great at it, then I will for sure be in the top X%, like top 5-4% of my industry. Accounting isn't necessarily my passion. I don't wake up every single day excited to crunch numbers. I don't wake up excited to sit at a desk from 9 to 5.
Really?
Yeah. Oh no. Tough news, right? Hard to hear that. But because I realize that it's my talent and I can put in the tens of thousands of hours of work required to become great at it, then I know that it's something that's going to be worthwhile for me. It's not my passion, but it's my talent that I can work towards. And another thing is, boring is sexy. So the less flashy an industry is, the more money there is in it. For example, like taking something like an industry of pottery, or like the visual arts or music, or all these like flashy industries, right? It's nice to be able to indulge in them, right? They're very like creative and artistic, etc. But the top, in order to make money in these industries, you need to be in the top 1 to 2%. That is ridiculously hard. It's objectively easier to be in the top 10% of something than the top 1%, right? The curve is an exponential curve, and for the people listening, I'm basically making a half U shape with my hand, because the more you climb up in terms of percentage, think of how many thousands, 10,000, 100,000 people you lose every percentage you climb up. And if you pick a boring industry, for example, like accounting, or a tax lawyer, or like a software engineer, right? These are objectively boring industries compared to something flashy like music or art, something, right? The top 10% of these industries make ridiculous amounts of money, right? They can fly private. Accounting has a very high employment rate. The top, I think, it only has like a 1 or 2% unemployment rate. So if you're even in the bottom 98% of accountants, you will still live, you'll still survive. But if you're in the top 10% of them, you'll like be able to fly private. And being top 10% of something is easier to be in the top 1% of something, right? Of course, the higher up you climb, even in accounting, software engineering, etc., the more money there is. But in order to chase like the financial security and stability that everyone should have, I think you should major in something that is boring as opposed to the sexy industry. There's actually a study done in the States. 87% of actors didn't qualify for health insurance because they made less than $23,000.
So that's tough.
It's tough, right?
That sounds so disheartening, bro.
You can go
Follow
to
your dreams.
Yeah, you can go to college. You can spend your 4 years bachelor's in performing arts, and the chances of you being in the in the top like 5% of the people who would actually qualify for who in the top 13% who qualify for health insurance, but top 13% doesn't necessarily mean hundreds of thousands of dollars. It just means more than $23,000. So you infinitely increase your chances of becoming less financially secure when you major in something that is kind of a flashy industry, right? When you go for something flashy like modeling, sports, art, singing, all these things, I don't want to dishearten anyone. I don't want to like crush your dreams, but you better be getting some really bright green signals early on in your life that you are going to be in the top 1% of this industry. If you're not, then I would strongly consider you major in something that is less flashy, something more secure, more stable, something that is aligned with your talent, that then you can put in the thousands of hours of work required to become great at it.
Yeah. Well, there's so many people that want to be an actor, singer, painter, right? Insert artist or athlete. But the reality of it, man, is it's just the Pareto distribution, hey?
Yeah.
Like 80% of people want but it's only 20% to get it. But it's even worse because the actual statistics are even lower. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of these passions that exist, they're wonderful. If you imagine a world where art, music, singing, dancing, all this stuff didn't exist, I wouldn't want to live in that world. It'd be pretty boring, right? Like imagine if 10 years ago Drake decided to become an accountant, right? Billions of people would be pretty pissed off that all his music didn't exist. So what should you actually do with your passions? So again, if everyone follows the advice of sticking away from their passions and majoring in something that is like a less flashy industry and don't worry on your passion, it's going to be a dull place. These are your passions. Work on them when you're not working on your 9 to 5. For example, accounting isn't necessarily my passion. I like solving Rubik's Cubes. That's kind of a passion of mine. I can't make a career out of solving Rubik's Cubes, but I can like, maybe sometimes film content about it, or maybe I'll just like have fun here and there outside of my 9 to 5.
What's your fastest time?
23 seconds.
Oh, the 3x3.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I got up to a minute. Wow, 23 seconds.
Yeah. And look, there's people who solve it in like 3-4 seconds, right? They're the top 1%. Again, I have not gotten those bright early green lights in my life, which means I won't be able to make as good of a career out of those top 1%ers, right? As opposed to something like accounting. So like your passions, these are the things that keep you sane and happy, right? They provide entertainment not only to yourself and to the world, and they definitely should exist. Make them your side hustles, right? Work on them outside of your 9 to 5. And when you see, even if it's something that you want to do as your career, wait until you see a little bit of revenue, right? Like let's say, for example, solving Rubik's Cubes, you start like a YouTube channel about Rubik's Cubes, just working on it maybe a couple hours a week outside of your 9 to 5. Turns out 5 months later, let's say you start seeing like $4,000 a month from it, right? Just from brand deals, sponsorships, YouTube ad revenue, etc. Well, at that point, your side hustle becomes or increases your main hustle's like income. That way you can kind of consider sometimes even leaving your 9 to 5 and making your side hustle your full-time job. That's when I would recommend making your passion your full-time income, when you have actual tangible proof that this is something that you can sustain and it is providing you more value than your 9 to 5. Otherwise, you should definitely consider pursuing them as a passion on the side outside of your 9 to 5. As in terms of picking a good college major, accounting is just something that I picked. I want to give you the tool set to kind of pick your own good college major. I'll take the example of, for example, accounting versus puppetry, right? There's this Japanese book. It's called Ikigai. And it's basically, it tells you what your life's purpose should be. And it's an intersection of what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you are good at. For example, in accounting, right? Accounting isn't necessarily something that I wake up excited to do, but hey, I don't hate it, right? So I guess it works out in what I love. What the world needs. I posted tons about this on LinkedIn, but accounting is definitely something that is very steadily in demand and will continue to be. It's definitely something the world needs. I can be paid a lot for accounting because of the demand and what I'm good at. I'm at level 1 of accounting right now. If I want to get to level 100, I just got to put in tens of thousands of hours of work so I can get good at this. Versus puppetry. let's say someone completely loves puppetry, right? That category is maxed out. That's awesome. But in terms of what the world needs, now the world definitely needs like puppetry and etc. Right? But the sheer like just quantity of people who need puppets or like puppet shows is significantly lower compared to like accountants, right? What you can be paid for, it's objectively lower compared to an accounting degree, for example, and what you're good at. Let's say you're the best like puppetry student in your class, but still just because the other categories aren't there or they're missing, then accounting would be a better fit for my case, right? Compare this to like I guess your own interest like software engineering versus like dentistry, right? Like both of those are very good industries, right? Let's say three categories are maxed out, but you just happen to love dentistry more, then that's what you would pick instead of your software engineering job. And there's 5 questions that every student should ask when it comes to picking a good college major. Unfortunately, secondary education or post-secondary education has been made a joke just because of like some of the majors that are offered, and people end up picking these majors because they don't do simple 10 minutes of research by answering these 5 questions. Number one, what jobs can you get with this degree? Number two, how much do these jobs pay? Number three, how hard is it for you to get these jobs? Like how hard is it for you specifically based off your talents and abilities? Number four, is it something that you can do without being totally miserable, right? That's definitely something that plays into effect. Let's say someone completely hates accounting. They hate the idea of it. Well, then that might not be as good of a pick for them, right? Again, I don't wake up excited to crunch numbers every day, but I don't totally hate it. So I can do it without being totally miserable. Number five, lastly, how long is it going to take you to pay off debt in the chance that you take on any student loans? For example, something like puppetry will be very low of a chance to pay off debt compared to like software
Dude,
engineering.
there's just some puppetry guy watching this right now, just getting his dreams crushed.
Yeah. And what sucks is these 5 questions, it's 10 minutes of research. Literally, you can ask these questions word for word on ChatGPT. It'll give you a very good objective answer. People don't do this research. They major in something that doesn't match like those ikigai categories, and it doesn't like match these 5 questions. And then they basically end up screwing their whole life over, and they waste 4 years of their life. They waste hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes in the case of college degrees. Like, for example, there's actually been someone who grew up in Alberta, right? Versus going to like Waterloo for the degree. They went on to like, I guess, a US school. And of course, you pay way more tuition. They ended up paying like, I think $300,000 as opposed to a $50,000 degree from Waterloo, right? Even if it's something like software engineering, well, the fifth question, how long does it take you to pay off debt? It won't really be as high with that compared to Waterloo. So there's definitely a lot of questions and things to consider when it comes to your college major. These 5 questions are a great place to start. Do 10 minutes of research, do your due diligence, and that way you can have the chance of not screwing up the rest of your life.
Yeah, true, man. There's so many things, like so many degrees at the U of A that are just utter trash, man. Like, what are you supposed to do with the fine arts degree? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's unless you're in the 1%, then you're not gonna get anywhere. Or like even like acting, like it's just not gonna be net positive for you. You might as well drop out and move to Toronto or whichever hotspot it is for the arts kind of field, and just the degree won't help you because they're not going to look at your degree on your transcript when they're trying to hire for a big budget movie, right? Or like, but it's just it's tough, dude. But it's just like we're told that, right? We're follow your passions, follow your dreams, and it misleads a lot of people.
I agree.
Yeah, it's like always that's what we've been instilled in since we were in kindergarten, elementary. And it's just, yeah, it's like you really have to find out what makes you feel fulfilled is what I've kind of really abided to. Because yeah, you don't have to like what you do, but like outside of work, maybe you can just focus more time in there. Like you could just do a 40-hour work week, just make sure you make the bare minimum as to how you can live, get the basic necessities, and still kind of be there for your friends and family, and you'll be fine. And then, as you said, yeah, maybe you could go on a little venture onto exploring your hobby And if it does grow corn, and if it does grow something tangible, then yeah, of course, maybe try it out a little bit, but you still have something to fall back on, right? There's no,
Absolutely.
you gotta have a safety net.
Yeah, you gotta have the backup option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and especially
Yeah.
like when it comes to like your parents, like I've seen a lot of these reels like, oh, like your job is to retire your parents or something, right? I think right now a lot of parents have enough of a retirement situation to not worry about that. All your parents want is for you to be able to like stand up on your own 2 feet and have a good option, right? You almost owe it to them to have a good backup option in case your side hustle fails, right? You should have a degree that is marketable in the job market. That's something you can get paid for, something that you can not be totally miserable doing, etc. And you need to you owe it to your parents to have that backup option always.
True. Yeah. What even is accounting, man? Like I've heard my mom's an accountant, right? But what do you guys actually do? Like, is it? I know there's an account and there's counting.
Mhm.
What are you counting? Like money? Right.
Yeah.
Like,
So like accounting at the end of the day, all of your accounting classes, they'll always label it as like the language of business, right? Um, so what I like about accounting is that it's very kind of predictive, and all you're doing is you're just basically making sure all your clients' accounts they line up right. You want to make sure what their assets are worth, what their liabilities are worth, what their expenses are worth, right? You want to kind of see where their money is going, where the income of money is, where the outcome of money is.
Mhm.
Basically, you're laying down a financial blueprint of that company's
like
position,
a
right?
P&L, right? Profit and
Yeah.
losses or
Yeah.
gains or like budget for certain things.
Like there's three main financial statements: the balance sheet, profit and loss, as you said, and then there's like the cash flow statement. What these do is they basically help objectively measure a business's position, strength, etc. I actually think the accounting degree needs a severe rebrand, where a lot of people deter from majoring in accounting just because it sounds so boring, right? Where you're at a desk from 9 to 5, crunched up like this, typing on your computer, right? But what I like to think of accounting is, or the way I'll phrase myself as an accountant is, I'm just a problem solver. It just so happens to be that my weapon of choice happens to be financial statements, numbers, all that stuff, right? And when you phrase it like that, the amount of work that you can do as an accountant increases infinitely. When you tackle all these businesses, right? Or you have all these problems that you're trying to solve, all you're doing is you're just applying your specific tool set, right? For example, so someone working in software engineering, right? They're a problem solver. It just so happens to be that their weapon of choice is code. I'm a problem solver. It just so happens to be that my weapon of choice is financial statements. And I think when you phrase your kind of life around that honestly, because every single job on planet Earth, at the end of the day, if you focus it down, it's basically you solving a problem. Even like puppetry, right? You're solving a problem.
Not puppetry. Man, what's with you and puppetry?
It's just a ridiculous major. But either way, like you're still solving a problem of like people need entertainment in their lives. This is one of your tool sets on how you can solve that. There's other tool sets. There's like stand-up comedy. There's writing. There's podcasting, right? All these are sources to solve the problem of providing entertainment. This is just your weapon of choice on how to do that, right? And that's where I think the accounting industry will head eventually. I want it to be more of a consulting role where basically businesses come to me with their problems. I help them solve it. Sometimes I'll use my AI toolkit. Sometimes I'll use my accounting toolkit. Sometimes I'll use my podcast content creation toolkit. All I'm doing right now with my accounting degree is maximizing the amount of tools I have within a specific toolkit.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
You don't think ChatGPT is gonna replace you guys?
No.
No.
Actually, when it comes to people asking, will AI affect the accounting industry? I think it's okay. When it comes to people asking like, will AI replace the industry setter, right? I think it's a flawed question. It will affect the accounting industry positively. I actually really hope that AI automates so many accountants' jobs away.
What?
Yeah,
I'm gonna clip this. Get you canceled. AI is coming for you. Laksh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like so many accountants right now, they're basically wasting their job away working on things that can be automated. They're just doing basic data entry, right? Or even personal taxes, so much of it can be automated not only through AI, but there's free tools that help you do them, right? Instead, when you basically kind of reduce that a manual and automated workload from accountants, that just frees up so many accountants to provide actual strategic business advice that really helps the business grows. Right now, accountants are, or 20 years ago, accountants were all about data entry, figuring out the balance sheets, right? Doing some bookkeeping. 20 years from now, accounting will be mostly a consulting role where you act as almost a second CEO for your client. Your goal is to help your client, your business client, maximize like their revenue, etc. Right? You're basically solving their problem of making their business grow. The tools that you use is the strategic advice. Advice will has nothing to do with the bookkeeping and the balance sheets, right? Hopefully, we're at a position where AI and code can just completely get rid of your need to do the balance sheets manually, and that way that can free up accountants to focus the majority of their time to actually provide the strategic advice that helps the business grow. That way they can spend the most of the time doing the things that actually provide value rather than building up to providing value.
I could tell you're a deep thinker, bro. I think that you've really thought out about every single question I ask. I really appreciate it, man. I respect it. I love. We gotta talk more, dude. You gotta come back on the show more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No. I forgot to mention, Dave Ramsey. I'm sure you've seen.
Dave
Yeah, I was
Ramsey,
gonna
yeah.
mention that, like all these people calling in, like, yeah, I'm $1 million in debt in chiropractic school. Like, what? Well, how are you $1 million in debt? And it's just like all these people racking up all these car debt and house debt and have to declare bankruptcy like 3 times. It's nuts. And yeah, when it comes to AI replacing all these jobs, like you need to have a job that's AI proof, that's just you proof, that's aligns with who you are. It doesn't make you just susceptible to just job loss. And because, man, it's just when you don't have money out there and you got kids you got to pay for, right? You got a family. And it's just when you're like, I pray to God once my parents are gone, that I can stand on my own 2 feet. Because right now, if they were gone, oh gosh, you already know I'm begging people to go on the GoFundMe. GoFundMe saving. But yeah, dude, it's I guess you said you don't really like. It's not like accounting is making you jump up on your bed and do a win dance, a triumphant dance every day where you're so excited to go to work, right? It's just like, yeah, it's not that bad. You could show up, you could put in the time. And I want to talk about personal finance too and
Sure.
financial literacy. So what are the most important money habits young people should start developing in college?
Mm-hmm. So in terms of nailing down your basic financial literacy, you should have a budget. Doesn't matter how you do it. You can use like apps. You can use a Google Sheet. Doesn't matter what your budget is. Some good examples are like 75% of your income should be used for like spending, 10% for savings, 15% for investing, right? Some people have the 50-20-30 rule where 50% of your money should go towards your needs like rent, food, etc. 30% should go towards wants and then 20% for saving. Doesn't matter what numbers you follow, doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you are saving some portion of your money. And the good tool to do that is to have a budget. You basically have a blueprint and a timeline of how you're going to spend your money to make sure that, most importantly, you don't run out and all your important categories are maxed out, right? For example, like you have enough money for rent and you don't blow it all on video games, right? But also you should have hopefully enough money to save some, right? Next thing you should do is you should have a 6 to 12 month emergency fund saved up of your expenses. For example, right now I'm in college, right? Just finished my first year. I don't really worry about rent. I just live with my parents, right? Same thing with food. At most, I'll spend like $150 a month-ish eating out, right? My expenses aren't that high. A little bit of car gas and insurance. So right now, my average month expense isn't too high. I should have 6 to 12 months saved up. And when you like grow up, when you have like mortgage, wife, kids, like etc., all that stuff, you should have 6 to 12 months at all times, ideally. And the moment you receive your income, with your budgeting tool, you should have ideally 10% of your money saved right away, right? Saved/invested. I'm going to use that as an analogous term here and there, and live well below your means. Oftentimes people fall victim to lifestyle inflation, where let's say you're making $50,000 a year and you have a $30,000 car, right? Let's say next year, somehow your income increases to $100,000 a year. You double your income. Oftentimes, people will buy a more expensive car. They'll buy a more expensive kind of like attire. They'll buy more expensive, like even if they'll buy a smart fridge, whatever, right? Where basically they'll double their expenses as per their income, and at the end of the day, they're the same amount of rich, they're the same amount of poor. Nothing really happened. So don't fall victim to lifestyle inflation. If your income increases, what should increase is your savings, right? There's actually a really cool math that you can do on your own. You can go, if you're listening, you can go on an investment calculator. Just search up on Google investment calculator. If you start at the age of 18, and let's say you want to retire at around 65 years age, right? That's 47 years. If you save $100 every single month, so that's basically just $1,200 a year, right? It's only $100 a month. And if you invest it into something like the S&P, which historically has returned about 10% per year, you will have literally $1 million by the time you retire. All it takes is $100 a month and you can become a millionaire. It's never been this easy to become a millionaire in our generation, but unfortunately, not enough people know about the importance of saving. Not enough people know about the importance of investing itself, and they end up screwing themselves financially, and they have no kind of money to fall back on after their retirement. So they have to continue working after they retire. And when you do that due diligence of just $100 a month, I promise you, once you actually look at your own bank statements, it's not that hard. Like just this month, like it's only been 10 days of May and I've already spent like $80 on eating out. For sure, eat out, for sure, like balance your life. But going back to the topic of balance, there's going to be some periods of imbalance. But ideally, just $100 a month equals $1 million by the time you retire. I'll take it. Not a bad deal, right? When you do the math, it's actually about $54,000 of your own money that you put away that will eventually yield $1 million just through the magic of investing and compounding. So,
yeah, dude, I got it really heavy into investing when I was I think around 19, 20. And I just learned about the power of compound interest, man.
eighth wonder of the
Just
world.
like, yeah. I think just
Yeah.
it's something a lot of people don't know about. And you can make so much money, but if you don't have the knowledge of investing, right? It's just the money won't work for you. You'll continuously have to work for
Yeah.
money, and it won't build into this giant snowball effect. Like I'm a big
Absolutely.
fan of Warren Buffett, and he's got so much advice for like just the average Joe.
Yeah.
Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. Or just like a fantastic something about a fantastic business. Do you know how that goes again? A good business at a good business at a cheap value is less than a never mind. But pick companies that are blue chip.
Yeah. Yep.
And then you'll be fine. Or like index funds or like
Yeah.
mutual funds.
Absolutely. Like, I personally, there's an app, it's called Blossom, where you can literally track all of my investing portfolio, right?
You're a big Brandon Beavis guy?
Never heard of him.
Oh, he's like one of the investors in
Oh,
Blossom, and he's a big YouTuber investor
cool.
for Canadians.
I've heard some of the investors' names, but basically, like, all I do is the majority of my investments just go into index funds, right? I, number one, don't have the time nor the will to just put in all that headache of picking out individual stocks. Just focus on the index fund. People much smarter than me have already figured out the correct ratios in S&P 500 to maximize your investment, right? So just rely on them. I personally fuel a lot of my money into the S&P 500. I have a little bit of budget, like 5% of my portfolio is for like random like screw around here and there, where I just invest in like blue chip companies. Like I have a little bit of Google, Meta, Amazon, Apple, right?
Bitcoin.
I have $5 in Bitcoin.
Dude, I lost like $2,000 in Bitcoin, man. Like when who was it? Like Sam Friedman in the Silicon Valley Bank? Yeah,
Yeah.
when that all came
Like his
crashing
FTX
down.
exchange
Yeah,
went down.
yeah. With one of the Winklevoss twins owned it. They had this wallet called BlockFi, and they had like a 6-7% interest by just having your Bitcoin in there.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. But I guess when it's too good to be true, it's probably a scam, or it's something that's completely inflated.
Yeah. Another good thing is like the amount of pain that you'll get from going all in on one investment and it tanking far exceeds the benefit of you going all in on investment, and it goes up, right? Like, picture your baseline level of happiness. Let's say whatever it is, right? Let's say like you're at 80%, right? Um, and let's say you go all into Nvidia before it went viral, and then your Nvidia money went up, right? And your happiness shot up to like 100%, right? Eventually, the way happiness works is it eventually will go down to your basic level, right? Let's say 80%. So basically, you saw a 20% increase in happiness. Now, let's say you went all in on Nvidia, and then it just tanked, right? And let's say that shot down your happiness 30 points. The pain that you'll feel from losing everything exceeds the pain that you'll gain from exceeds the benefit that you'll gain from
I've heard of that
bit, yeah.
because negativity is much more powerful.
Yeah.
Mhm. How can someone start building financial literacy without getting overwhelmed?
The biggest way I like to frame it is the 99% of financial literacy you need to learn can be boiled down to 1 hour of research. Watch a couple of YouTube videos. I actually like to go on ChatGPT for everything now, where I just like pick a topic, I ask it to explain it like I'm a 5-year-old, and then I just kind of go down a rabbit hole. But it's just an hour that you need to spend on a random Tuesday for the rest of your life. I think that's a pretty good return on investment, right? Just 1 hour. And I'll be coming out with my own podcast episode about financial literacy as well. So little shameless plug there. But this applies to learning anything, just so much of your learning can be boiled down to an hour on a random Tuesday, especially now. Information is so readily available just through ChatGPT. The average individual's rate of learning has increased so much. So you should use that to your advantage, and you should leverage that. And with financial literacy, there's tons of YouTube channels. There's tons of documentaries. There's tons of articles you could read. Doesn't matter which one, just start.
Yeah, dude. Do you believe in budgeting apps, spreadsheets, or old school tracking? What works for you?
Something is better than nothing. Like, pick one and just kind of try it out for a little bit. I personally, I actually use a spreadsheet sometimes. Like, just have like a little bit of my income, see what's coming in, see what my expenses are, and try to see how much I can save. There's apps you could use. Like, there's an app called Mint. There's an app called YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget. I haven't personally tried using any of those, but I think you can never beat simple. Just go with a simple spreadsheet. Honestly, sometimes your bank accounts will tell you all that you need to know, like just the bank app. So there's also tons of budgeting templates that you can find online. Like, just search up like personal finance on a Reddit thread, and you'll find tons of like templates. Pick one and just stick to it. But the important thing is you just try budgeting. You try to see what percentage of your income you can save, and you try to stick to it, most importantly, as consistently and for as long as possible.
Yeah. Google Sheets for me. I just do
free
income, expenses at the end of every month. Calculate the income, calculate the expenses, subtract the expenses from the income, and then boom.
There you go.
And then at the end of the year, I calculate how much I made, income, totals, and the expenses, and then boom. And it's just because what I used to do is I used to calculate every single time I went out or I purchased something, and it was hard to keep up. But now it's just like you can copy and paste your all your transactions within each credit card, and you just get ChatGPT to calculate it, and then it'll just do all the expenses for you, calculate all the income. It's really easy. It's a little a day goes a long way.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, man. It's just you were what got you into this route though? Because I feel like, was it just like an algorithm doing its work? Stumbled upon a YouTube video? Did you get advice from a friend or?
So when I decided that I was gonna pick accounting as my career, it was almost like a expectation that I know a little bit about personal finance, and that I'm kind of like the finance bro of the group chat almost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where I post sometimes on my reels about personal finance, right? And I was involved with the business club in high school. I eventually became the president of it, and
congratulations, or I guess not like for that time. Yeah,
appreciate it. And then so it was easy to do a financial literacy workshop here and there, so I did a couple of those, and I'm like, you know what, all this information, it only takes about an hour worth of presentation for the rest of your life. And going back to my kind of purpose of providing value, I think financial value is one of the biggest values you can provide, especially that education route of things. And eventually I decided to host a workshop here and there. So I was invited back to my old high school about a month ago. I did a workshop on financial literacy. And the way I see it going is I want to basically target as many high schools as possible, go around these high schools and give them the financial education that unfortunately the school boards don't give, but is very, very useful and very important for your life. Even in college, I don't think there's a single like financial literacy course that you can take. In high school, the most you'll get is the Com 20 course, but that doesn't do a great job of personal finance. And what really opened my eyes is that all you need is $100 a month to become a millionaire. When someone phrased it out like that for me, light bulb just went in my mind. Like, why don't more people know about this, right? And so I think I've kind of like almost made it like a side mission of mine to bring out this financial literacy to as many people as possible and to help them realize that becoming financially literate and becoming financially secure is not a dream anymore. It can just be accomplished with a strong level of discipline and consistency.
Yeah, I think they've done a bunch of studies on like drug addicts versus the normal person, and they gave them a choice of like, would you just cash in and get the $100 right now, or would you wait a couple months and get double the amount? And like drug addicts prioritize now.
Yeah,
Like I think the reason why most people don't want to do it, even when they do know that it'll merit a lot more resources later on, is like, why wait? Why? Like, I could YOLO.
yeah,
But yeah, this importance to just, if you want to live a fulfilling life, you want to be less stressed and be better set up, or don't go on the lottery. Like so many, only the poor pay for the lottery.
yep,
Like to actually cash in true real wealth and to accumulate it, it requires dedication, persistence, and consistency. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
just show up.
Yeah.
Just show up every single month, $100 in your investing account.
Sweet, brother. So the importance of social media presence. I know you're big on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to lower that a bit, yeah.
There you go.
That should be good. So why do you think having a strong social media presence is important in today's world, even outside of business?
Cool. So the way the world's heading right now, and especially even where it is at the current point, we are no longer in an oil-based economy or like a manufacturing-based economy, right? We are in an attention-based economy. The people who can control attention will win. If you look at now, the biggest companies on earth are tech companies, right? And they're all fighting for your attention. Instagram, TikTok, right? They're all trying to keep you on their page, right? They want your attention. And if you can control attention, you will win. The best way for individuals like us to control attention is to start posting on social media. Because if you can post a minute-long video on Instagram and you have like 2,000 views and there's like 8 hours of watch time, then that's basically you being able to put yourself out there in the minds of other people for 8 hours basically. And then you keep on doing that, hundreds of reels, and you now basically have a fan following, right? You have a fan base that eventually in business, like you can use towards like a distribution channel, etc. I'll go on outside business, but specifically in business, you get invited to so many other things, right? Like social media basically serves as like a resume in a way. It's a really important statistic nowadays with how many people are on social media. For example, I got invited to this podcast because only of social media, right? I would not have known you if I did not post on social media at all, right? And it adds credentials to your name.
Was it Dabby or through Campus where you got me the follow? Because you followed my Instagram account and I'm like, oh, cool. This guy looks familiar. Was it through Dobby or Campus?
Campus. I made a video about Campus. So for those of you watching, like you should check out Advin's previous podcast episode. It was with Campus. And so he's a person at U of A. He wanted to start posting on social media and he made a lot of dance TikToks, right? Unfortunately, people gave him a lot of undue hate And I just decided to address it. I'm like, hey, like, mind your own business, right? And I'm like, this guy has balls that neither you or I have, right? This guy has guts, and I have a lot of respect for people who post on social media, because I know it takes a lot of bravery, and it's hard at first, right? And so I made that reel, ended up getting really good views. I think it was in like the 36,000 as of now. And that's how I guess you kind of knew about me. And I saw your content, I followed you, and then it just like spun off from there, right? Like, things just spin off so quickly when you start posting on social media. Like, the chances of you meeting cool people are infinitely increased. And that's really important, especially in a business sense, because if I want to start making content and you make content already, it's so much valuable for me to not only have a friend, but also a connection within the space of making content.
Yeah, true. It's just it builds this cycle where your friend gets to introduce you to their friend group, and then their friend group introduce you to their friend group. When it comes to social media, right, you get the tag like, oh, this person likes school. You scan their profile for a while. Oh, DM them. Another person comes up because you guys linked up and you guys collaborated and you guys link up, and
Absolutely.
it's like this. Like, for me, podcasting now, I just haven't like there's no shortage of podcast guests, let's just say,
Yeah.
because there's this, like, with this guest, I know this person and that person, and with this person, it's more of a time time kind of limitation for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can only choose the people that are aligned with what I want to talk about,
Mhm.
that actually resonate with me, that I
Yeah.
actually want, that could provide value to the audience. But yeah, there's so many opportunities, man,
Yeah.
when it comes to
Like
just
your
putting yourself out there.
Yeah, like your connections just infinitely increase, right? Before I
Mhm.
started posting content, like, I was in high school when I started. I wasn't the most social guy, right? And about 100 people probably knew me, right? That includes friends, that includes family, etc. Right? That was not a lot, and I had relatively ambitious goals where that number just needed to go up. When I started posting content on social media, that number skyrocketed. Right now, on average, my reels are getting good views. Probably thousands of people have at least seen my reels. Maybe a couple hundred watch them regularly, right? And just because of that, the amount of connections and the randomness of life affecting you positively increases, right? For example, right now, let's say if we were to go to Starbucks and we were having a conversation about social media, right? Our lives would not change at all. If we had that same conversation in LA or San Francisco, etc., right, where the randomness of life just kind of enhances your creation, then we would meet potentially other creators, right? Or potential other like cool guests to invite on, right? And I think that's the same way with social media. Social media is like an infinite kind of network hub where one video has the potential of reaching millions and millions of people, right? And when you sow more seeds, when you sow more videos, the chances of you having a good crop that yields a lot of value for you infinitely increases. And as long as you keep on doing your due diligence and maximizing your input of putting out reels, then the reach infinitely increases, the amount of cool people you meet infinitely increases. And there's this theory about quantum conversations where you're 5 random conversations away from completely changing your life for the better. And when you post on social media, that chance of you having 5 random conversations infinitely increases. There is no better way to do it, to have those kind of conversations than just on social media. It's a
Mhm.
powerhouse of connection.
Yeah, as Buzz Lightyear would say, to infinity and beyond. There's just the universe is the limit. It's
Yeah.
endless, and it's just with social media, you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's
Yeah.
tuning in, who's actually changing their habits and their lives and the structure, and going, huh, Laksh, you got a good point. Maybe I should start investing. Maybe I should break these daunting tasks into mini tasks so I can tackle them.
Yeah.
Maybe I should stop playing the victim and actually do something about this circumstance that I'm in. Right? There's somebody out there right now listening, whether it be as soon as I publish this, whether it be 10 years down the line, dude. Maybe, we're dead by then, and there's somebody 200 years from now going, oh, I'm just going to check out the archives. I wonder what the people were like. I'm like, damn, these two, whoa, like cool, like whatever happens. But that's dope, man. Yeah. Yeah. How do you stay connected while also being strategic with your content?
So I think the biggest thing is don't do it for the money. Don't do it for fame or anything, right? Strictly post on social media for the purpose of providing value. When you provide
Ah,
value, um, there is no limit to providing value. For example, let's say you set a goal like, oh, I want to hit 10,000 followers. I want to get $1,000 a month in revenue from my social media, right? What happens when you hit that? Is your motivation, is your drive just going to go away? But when you say your goal is just to provide value, well, that's a limitless goal. It has no limit. Therefore, it just keeps on pushing you to provide more content and provide value. But it also aids the world in a better way, right? When you have arbitrary goals like money or fame, etc., it hinders your goals. And when you focus on providing value, everything just scales infinitely. Um, and when you post strictly for the purpose of providing value, you eventually will get better results too. When I started posting content, I was all about the fame, money, etc. I didn't really get good results. But when I focused on providing value, now my reels get sometimes on average 1,000 plus views. My reel that I did about campus, that was my highest reel, about 36,000. And all I wanted to do was just wanted to provide the value that, you know, focus on your own life, let him do kind of what he's doing with his life, right? And another thing about providing value in terms of staying authentic is if you stumbled across your own reel, would you watch it? As in, are you just kind of mimicking someone else's point of view, or are you actually providing authentic, like your own input and your own opinion, right? If you would not watch your own reel, then it isn't something you can't expect other people to watch it, right? When you post on social media, you're asking someone for their most important resource, their time. And if you can't expect yourself to watch your reel, then why should that person, right? And the only way to increase that expectation of you watching your own reel is to provide value. So when you want to be strategic in terms of providing value, you have to do it every single day. My first reel went up November 14th, 2023, which is about a year and a half ago. So just about 500 days, right? I haven't been the most consistent. I currently have 168 reels out there, a couple podcast episodes. So that's about one reel every other day kind of thing. There's been people who post multiple reels a day, right? There's people who post one reel a month kind of thing. The person who posts the most will have the most chances of kind of increasing their connections, will have the most chances of getting views, right? Will have the most opportunities to provide value. So post every single day. And the more you post, the better you get at it too. When I first started posting, each reel took me about 50 minutes. Now it takes me 20 minutes idea to production. That includes editing, captions, etc., whatever, right? And when you post every single day, you become more a confident speaker as well. You can scroll to some of my first couple of reels. I did not know how to talk to people, right? A compliment that I get nowadays a lot is I'm very well spoken, right? That did not exist a year and a half ago. But through 168 iterations and error corrections of me basically improving on the previous reel, that compounds like crazy. And now some of my most recent reels are where I've been the most confident public speaker I ever could have been, right? And all it takes is you doing it consistently and try not to stop. There's been times where I've just not posted for a month, right? I've let the excuses get in the way. I've let like all of those reasons come up, but eventually you got to tackle those down and then now try to post every single day.
yeah, dude. I'm the same way where I thought I was a good speaker because I had a lot of friends who seemed to, think I wasn't that bad. I like this guy in my company. They
Yeah.
they answered my phone calls, replied to my texts. But then I actually listened back to my own content because with every single episode that I publish, I listen to it like I'm a viewer. Like before this, I was listening to Brooke McLean's podcast episode. I'm almost done it. I'm like halfway through, but as I'm eating lunch, I'm like, oh, cool. Good point, Advin. Or like, good point, Brooke.
Absolutely.
You should never release anything that you're not going to consume, right? That's why, it's such a, like scamming is already like terrible, right? Because you're actually just stealing from people and kind of just giving destruction and just, it's evil, man. But it's not something you would do for yourself, right? So why do it to others? It's a great rule to have.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's, are you providing net positive for you and other people? Or are you, chucking a dynamite and hoping, something will explode and it'll be good, right? It's, yeah, dude, but I believe in social media. I'm pro social media, as long as you use it right, like any tool, right?
And one more point about just like
Mhm.
pro social media is I see so many like friends of mine that have like no profile picture accounts, no name accounts, right? Like apparently now it's a flex to have zero posts or whatever, right? Or like a low following
Is
count.
that I don't really with people that have that. I'm like, why don't you post a
I just
picture?
don't get it, right?
Yeah.
Now, like, it's just where the world is heading. You have to accept it whether you like it or not. Back in the 80s, social media didn't exist. People used to have in person conversations, right? Now, the only way, and that was a really good, genuine connection. Now, the best way to build a good, genuine connection is just because of the introduction of social media, you have to take advantage of it, right? And, like, show me like the trips you've been on, right? Post about that, right? Like, show me your lovely family smiling on like your Belize trip, etc., right? Or show me like that like cool cake you had for your birthday, right? All of these things is just a way for you to kind of build more connection on social media. Nowadays, social media is the medium on which to build connections. Are there positives to it and negatives to it? Absolutely. There's definitely a lot of negative, like about binge scrolling and doom scrolling on
Doom
social media.
scrolling, yeah.
Yeah. Like the
Comparison. Mhm.
absolutely comparison is thief of joy. And like there's so much negativity that exists, but it's a tool, social media, and if you can learn to use the tool positively, it's so much better for you. And the amount of genuine connections that you can have with social media is a powerhouse. So I don't even get it when people just personally don't post like their own stuff, right? It's the best way to build connection.
Yeah, I always think of a producer and a consumer, right? You should lean more on producing rather than consuming, because
Yeah.
if most of what you're doing is consuming, it's probably not good for you here. And while I don't like yeah, for the average person, if you don't want to post, yeah, sure, whatever. But it's just the way you use it, like the way you look at it too. If you're on there the whole time, your days just you're not having good experiences, then yeah, maybe you probably shouldn't have social media. Same, this goes the same way for credit cards, right? You can have
Yeah.
a great credit score by using cards. You can have a great, you know, you could credit card churn and take advantage of all the benefits. And but if you can't manage your money properly, if you max it out 10 grand and you don't know how to pay for it, then maybe you shouldn't have a credit card. Maybe you shouldn't have social media. If all you do is doom scroll, all you do when you do tap on the stories, it's a net negative into your well
Yeah.
being. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have it. But there are ways where you can provide positivity and give out and connect with people in the world. Like I credit Instagram for the lots of the connections that I have with my friends when it comes to making plans and memes and ideas and cool stories.
Yeah.
It's just this wonderful thing. But like everything, too much is bad. It's just you have to find what's right for you. How can it help you? Same with ChatGPT, same with the hammer. If you whack your nails with it, of course it's gonna hurt. It's not good for you. But if you use it for nails, yes, it's a great tool. That depends how you use it. You know?
Yeah.
So for someone just starting out,
Mm-hmm.
or actually that's the next question. So how do you stay authentic while also being strategic with your content?
We answered that.
Did we answer that?
Yeah. Like the whole providing value, like don't.
Oh crap, man.
No
So
worries, you're good.
for someone just starting, what's one piece of advice to grow their brand or message online?
So aside from the whole point of just providing value, just start, right? Like there's so much kind of hindrance that people have in their brains when it comes to doing anything for that matter, right? But act before the fear stops you from acting, right? The amount of time that you'll spend contemplating whether or not to start posting, right? Or to whether I should post a video, in that amount of time, you could have already posted one or two videos, right? Um, I'll give an example of how I kind of started posting is I was giving advice to a friend. She wanted to kind of get her music hobby out on Instagram, right? She wanted to post a little about it. And eventually, it could lead to connections in the music space for her, which it has by now. But, she was a bit uncertain about it. So I told her to give me a list of reasons why she did not want to post. And then I helped her tackle them one by one, right? And then I'm like, you know what? I think I ended up giving some pretty good advice. And by then I'd listened to a couple podcasters and some other Instagram people. They inspired me to kind of share my voice out there, right? And so I did the same thing for myself. What is stopping me from starting? And I just tackled that list head on. And I think one of them was like, oh, what if I don't know what to talk about, right? So one time in my physics class in high school, I finished my exam early. I just wrote out like 40 video ideas. I'm like, cool, now I don't have that reason. What other reason can I target, right? And when you go through all those reasons, there is nothing left to do except for the action. So I just started posting, and yeah. And another thing is, I was 18 when I started 17 when I started posting, right? I'm 18 now. I'm gonna die in about 60 years, right? Like, if you
60K, we'll give it 80, man.
Sure.
Maybe 60 is a
Right,
bit
like-
too short.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, that can be a very dark topic. It can be kind of like demotivating for some people, but I like to see it as that, look, I don't have a lot of time left. And also, Alex Ramosi has a quote where in 3 generations from now, everyone who you know will be dead, including the people who stopped you from doing what you wanted all along. So yeah, there might be some people who might hate on me, or they might clown me on posting about social media, right? They might put hate comments in my videos, but all of us are going to be dead in like 60 years, right? This is all the time we have left, and you kind of have to make the most of it. I'm 18. If you look at the math, like a fourth to a fifth of my life is already done, and it's just flown by. And the amount of time that is taken up by inaction can be used so much better to deal with the action and then deal with whatever comes after, right? And there's always going to be 1,000 reasons to not do something, but you got to find the one reason that makes it worth it. I've never ever regretted posting on social media till date. I have 168 reels out there. I have a couple podcast episodes, right? It's always been net positive for me so far.
Net negative.
like with negativity, sure, there's going to be some hate comments. There's going to be like people writing mean things in the comments. Yes, they do sting for a little bit.
Do you reply to them?
I've never replied with like, oh, you should delete this comment or whatever. I usually either reply with something funny or like a laugh emoji or something, or I'll just like leave it unread. Like, yes, it does sting a little bit, especially when you're starting out, but the sheer influx of positive comments far outweighs any negatives. There's way more positivity in this world than negativity. You really have to try hunting the negativity down to find it in your life. On social media, yes, you are taking a risk. Like, yeah, there's going to be people posting negative stuff about you and your comments, but don't let that get to you. It stings a bit more, but the positive influx stays with you so much longer, and it's way more impactful.
Dude, those hate comments, man, sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I'm gonna take it out on them. But like you said, sometimes it's probably better to delete it. It's better to not just reply or like laughing emoji. But I think that what I'm gonna start doing is kill them with kindness.
Absolutely.
I think actually just be rational about it and actually reply, because that increases engagement, when you're just starting out, right? It's just more comments, more engagement. And I don't know about you, but I always look at the comments with every single video. I don't know what it is, but I'm always like, rarely do I leave one unless I really like the creator or something really connects with me, or just I rarely comment, but I'll read through the comments, and if there's comments there about people trashing each other, more clicks, baby.
Exactly. Like, it got to a point where I was excited when I would get a hate comment, because I'm like, hey, it's free interaction, right? Every time they post something, like, it'll get reshared to that person's like friends feeds, etc. Right? It's free interaction. It's more clicks, as you said.
That's why like people like Jake Paul and Logan Paul just skyrocketed, because with every single controversy. And it's granted, it's not like highly illegal. Like, they've done some pretty illegal shit, but it's not to the point, right, where you're in jail for 25 years to life, right? It's just to the point where, Logan's in the forest in Japan. Like, it's still really highly looked down upon. It's like not right, but it's not to the point where it's gonna banish him forever. And like the amount of hate those guys must have gone through, and like to this day, celebrities, they get analyzed and nitpicked and all these things, and they may be the kindest person 99% of the time, and then 1% of the time they have a scowl on their face. They tell their fans to go away, or paparazzi catches them at a bad time, and then they're just marked as that bad person when really they're a kind-hearted person. And that's kind of what we have to think about social media too, is like, these people don't know us, right? Maybe
exactly.
With the tone of voice that you got with this, if you know in yourself that what you're doing is right for you, you're not putting up an act, you're not trying to use people as a means to an end, you're just trying to provide value. That's it. Then fuck the haters. You know?
Exactly, man. Like,
Yeah, dude. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on the long-term podcast.
no, hey, my pleasure. This was a great
Mhm.
experience. I'm really happy that I got to share some of my points and I had some great conversations with you. Looking
Yeah,
forward
man.
to it again.
Yeah, dude, if I had that drive when I was 18, I mean, I was a complete degenerate when I was 18, man. Partying, drinking, drugs, and here you are, finance and making your own reels and, persevering, really listening to Scott Galloway, bro. I wish that guy came into my life when I was 18. Chris Williamson, Hormozy, Goggins. That's
Great
like,
role models, man.
yeah, man. But dude, I think you will go far in the future, dude. And I don't think this is the last episode with us. I'll have to have you on one of these days again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And yeah, do you have any last words? The viewers, maybe who want to start some content or are feeling low in life, whatever pops up in your mind.
Absolutely. Just start. The amount of time that you spend contemplating to do the thing can be better spent doing the thing and dealing with what comes after.
Yeah. Remember that poem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as always, to everyone listening and watching, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope, strengthen your faith, and keep it long term. Laksh, Chopra, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace. All right.
All right.